Well folks, doesn't this look adventurous? Hey, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new real-life car review. This is my third review of the Suzuki Swift, and this is the third drivetrain option. After the manual transmission, the CVT automatic, this is the third drivetrain option for the Suzuki Swift, namely the Swift AllGrip. And this version is a special version. It's the AllGrip FX, which stands for Fun Explorer. It's a one-off, it's a creation by the Dutch importer to test the waters if a version like this, a bit more advanced, dressed up car, is feasible for sale and for production. So in this video I want to mainly talk about the AllGrip all-wheel drive system and the changes in comparison to the manual 5-speed transmission car, and yeah, I'll also show you the details of this Fun Explorer version. And I'm really curious to hear your opinion of this car, if it's something that you would see on sale and if it's something that you would buy. Anyway, let's do a quick walk around and show you the details of this specific version. The most noticeable thing about this version is of course the roof rack. It's a standard Thule roof rack with Thule boxes on there, and Suzuki put a spare wheel on there, but that's just to dress it up. If this car goes on sale, it will be with a roof rack only, and the spare tire and the boxes of course is something that you have to buy yourself. Suzuki has also added these wheel arch liners, but they come from the standard Swift options brochure, so they are available on the other Swift models too. Now you would add these to dress up the vehicle a little bit, but it also serves the purpose that you don't scratch the paint around the wheel arches. However, they are painted in gloss black, and that kind of defeats the purpose of having these protectors on here. Instead of scratching the body paint, you're now scratching the wheel arch liners. Another change is that Suzuki in the Netherlands has fitted other tires. From factory it rolls on Yokohama Blue Earth tires. Good tires, they were on the cars in the previous tests, no complaint over there. But these are Michelin Cross Climate tires, all season tires, and they do a pretty good job. In the summer they behave like real good summer tires, and in winter time on snow or unpaved roads they act like real grippy winter tires. Good tires. Also, the AllGrip has raised suspension. They have longer springs, so they have enough clearance, a bit more ground clearance than the standard version. The FX version that they have created had an extra lift, but those springs are currently not on here. But if this would go on sale, so Suzuki would have a little bit extra lift. And in comparison with the standard Swift, the increased ride height is, the ground clearance is increased by 3 centimeters. Speaking of wheels, the AllGrip is only available on the mid and top trim level. Over here the Swift comes in 3 trim levels, and AllGrip is said only available on the middle and top trim level, and this is the middle trim level. It's called the Selector over here, and the main difference between this and the top trim level is that the door mirrors have no electric folding function, and this car does not have climate control, and the wheels are also a little bit different. The top trim level gets different wheels. These are the standard wheels for the Swift in the middle trim level. Another nice touch is this license plate holder with integrated LED bar. Currently it's not in compliance with type approval. It's wired in separately from the headlights, but if this would go on sale it would be connected to the high beams. Looking at the tail of the car, you can see a little bit difference. They removed the lettering and replaced it with this wider spread, wider space Suzuki lettering. Currently those are stickers, but if this car would make production, the idea is to have 3D emblems on here, and also they added this little protector on the bumper. Let me open up the trunk real quick. Trunk space is exactly the same as in the other Swift versions. The differential on the rear axle is mounted under the spare wheel top, so you don't lose any boot space. So let's quickly hop in because it's starting to rain. I talked about the interior in great detail in the prior 2 tests of the Suzuki Swift. You look around in the interior, there are no changes. There are no buttons to activate, deactivate the all-wheel drive system. It's fully automatic, and also on the gates cluster there is no indicator for the all-wheel drive being active. Another difference, it's for this trim level, because the previous 2 cars were the top trim level and they had climate control. This is the manual control cluster for the HVAC. So you have a toggle switch for hot and cold. Let me toggle it to cold. It looks like this, so there's no temperature readout, and the AC is just manually operated. and here is the toggle switch for the fan speed. But there is one big difference, namely the seats. For this special version, Suzuki in the Netherlands has had them upholstered with synthetic leather. I'm not sure if it's a real leather, but they look real nice. And yeah, other than the upholstery, there are no differences in seat or seating comfort. I kind of like the seats. They're pretty hard, the cushions are pretty hard, but on longer drives you don't get any painful pressure points. Good seats, and yeah, of course, having these leather seats makes them super practical. And as you can see from the standard Swift brochure, they have added these rubber floor mats, super practical for a car like this. And of course, we have to have a look in the engine bay, where there are no big differences. There is only one engine option for Suzuki Swift, and that's the Suzuki Z12E engine, and I talked about this engine in great detail in the very first video. In my humble opinion, this is the most reliable engine that is currently on sale. It's really over-engineered, it will last a long time. This is great, typical Suzuki technology. And if you have a look around here, yeah, you don't see big changes, and you have to have a real good look to see the drive shaft running from front to back, and it's all the way down there. Suzuki have added a transfer case to the transmission, to the differential housing. It's very compact, and then it goes to the rear axle, and that's where the magic happens, which I'll show you in the next scene. Really have to have a look underneath the car, and there it is, the small rear differential. And as you can see, it's mounted underneath the car, it's suspended in 3 points, and there are no major changes to the bodywork. This is a semi-independent torsion beam axle. It has coil springs. It's a very smart system, and what we used to see back in the day on these small Japanese cars that had all-wheel drive, they would put in a live axle, but not in this case. It's semi-independent. Very compact differential housing, and the AllGrip system relies on a viscous coupling. So let's move over a little bit, and let's try to shed a little bit extra light on there. You can see the differential housing, and then that black circular part just behind the exhaust pipe, and that's the viscous coupling. And normally, when the driving circumstances are good and the front wheel tires have grip, that viscous coupling is just disengaged. Inside this coupling are 2 sets of clutch plates, but those clutch plates never really engage, but they do rotate in a viscous fluid. It's a silicone oil, and what happens is that when the front wheels lose grip, the drive shaft running front to back, we can hardly see it over here, will just start to spin a little bit faster. And when there is a speed difference in this viscous coupling, it will cause the fluid to thicken up. It's a very viscous fluid, and the clutch plates that are connected to the drive shaft will drag the clutch plates that are connected to the pinion shaft, will drag along, and thus driving the rear axle, transferring torque to the rear axle. It cannot be operated by the driver, as I said. It's compact, it's light, it's maintenance free, and the same goes for the rear housing. And since this car is front wheel drive only under ideal or optimal driving circumstances, there isn't much road resistance and extra friction in this drivetrain, and that's something that you can see in the fuel consumption numbers, because Suzuki states that the fuel consumption for the AllGrip version is only half a liter more per 100 kilometers, so that's pretty darn good. Okay, let's crawl back from underneath the car and take this thing for a drive. It's extremely rainy, but it's nice and warm inside. And on a side note, the interior heater is really fast to warm up after a cold start, so that's a good thing. Now let me put on a little bit of light in here so you can see me. There is a little bit of off-road track with very deep and very loose sand, and that's where these cars excel. There are people living here in the forest, and if they are in need of help or need to get in and out, these cars may be super helpful over there. And you may be wondering why Suzuki put this car on sale in the Netherlands, where 99.9% of the roads is just perfectly fine and we don't have any winters to speak of. Well, if you're the only car manufacturer that has this on sale, you'll also be the one selling them. And I said, it's not only those healthcare organizations which might find this AllGrip Suzuki Swift super helpful. Also organizations like, well, for instance, ambulance service, mobile doctors, fire departments, fire brigades, because this car is extremely capable off-road. Now here is where the sand gets a little bit looser, and as you can see it's very narrow, and if you would have a larger all-wheel drive vehicle, yeah, you have to have a way out to be able to turn here, but as you can see it's very narrow here, and a car like the Swift needs very little room to turn in, make a three-point turn and get out of here. This is where we head into those loose deep sand. I'm driving in second gear, 1400 RPM. This is really deep. I can feel the car sink in, but it just pulls through, and it's also quite wet, so yeah, this is where those Michelin tires really start to excel, but it's doing just perfectly fine in here. And if there was oncoming traffic, I could back in between some trees over here and just pass another vehicle. And it's those kinds of roads where this car really makes sense. And yeah, it does this. Yeah, it's easy peasy for the Swift, simple as that. Oh, I have to downshift. Very loose sand here. Now I need to pull away in loose sand, and I could feel the rear axle kick in, start driving the car, and then the front wheels found a grip, and we're good to go. Well, yeah, this is basically all that I can show you. What the AllGrip system is capable of. But as I mentioned, if you live in Northern Europe, Scandinavia, where you have real winters, put on some decent winter tires or good all-season tires, and you can drive the car year-round worry-free. And the same is true for mountainous regions, especially the Alps, Switzerland, Austria, North Italy, the east of France, where you see a lot of these cars. I know for a fact that the Suzuki Swift AllGrip is the best sold car in the mountainous regions. And on a side note, on the fuel consumption, I have this large roof rack on top of the car that really puts down its weight, literally and metaphorically, on the performance of the car. As I pointed out in the first test of the Suzuki Swift, in fifth gear, 80 kilometers an hour, there is hardly any acceleration. You really have to downshift into fourth or even third gear to accelerate and to start overtaking. That's not different for the AllGrip version, even though fourth and fifth gear in this car are slightly lighter. I have to look out here, slightly lighter than in the normal 5-speed version. But this roof rack has so much coefficient of drag that it really puts its foot down when you're driving 100 kilometers an hour. The top speed without roof rack for the regular version is 160 kilometers an hour. And what you can also tell is when you lift the accelerator, you want to start coasting, there is so much air resistance that the car slows down more. It can do less regen braking. And also it has a devastating effect on the fuel economy. But since the fuel economy of the Swift was pretty darn good to begin with, it's second only to the Toyota Yaris hybrid with a fuel consumption of 26 kilometers per liter. Even with this roof rack on top, it still gets 19 kilometers per liter. Anyways, I've touched upon all my talking points for this drive segment and show you what I wanted to show you. So let's head out to the middle of nowhere and hope for a dry spell so I can give you my final thoughts on the Suzuki Swift AllGrip. See you in a second. During the drive segment, I didn't discuss the ride and handling of this car, and the reason for that is the weight on the roof rack. The roof rack itself, I just left it on there, but when you start cornering and go over speed bumps, you can tell that it has a profound effect on the body roll and the suspension. It isn't really all that much weight, but it's the increased center of gravity because of that weight that the car handles differently. But I think it's safe to say that the Swift AllGrip handles almost exactly the same as the regular versions of the Swift. And I think that I would drive the Swift AllGrip and the normal front-wheel drive version back to back, I would have a hard time them apart based on their ride and handling. The regular versions of the Swift have a very capable suspension, and that is what makes this car so much fun. It has very good rational qualities, the cost of ownership, reliability, and the fuel consumption are all great for this car, and it's almost no different for the Suzuki Swift AllGrip. Yes, you have increased weight, so slightly higher fuel consumption, slightly lower top speed, yeah, and the acceleration is a little bit slower, and in this case it's drastically affected by the roof lag, but I try to leave that out of the equation. For the Dutch market it's a bit of an odd car. There's no real need for most private buyers to have a car with AllGrip in this class of vehicle, but as I pointed out in the drive segment, there are certain professions that can use this car real well. It's the only car brand on the market that supplies a car with all-wheel drive in this market segment, so there is a use case for this car in the Netherlands, but it's of course entirely different in the Scandinavian countries or countries where you have real winters, or when you live in a large Australian outback where this car is also on sale, and as I mentioned, in more mountainous areas, because these are real mountain goats. Anyway, I think it's a highly interesting car because even with the all-wheel drive system fitted, it doesn't have a large effect on the performance of this car. That's a real smart system that works really well when you need it. As I mentioned in the introduction, this version, the Fun Explorer trim level, isn't for sale yet. It's just a matter of testing the waters, and I'm really curious to hear what you think of this car. So let me know down below in the comment section. Anyway, I see some new rainstorms coming, so I want to wrap this up. Anyway, I hope you liked following me along, and if you did, let me know by giving me a like, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment if you have any constructive feedback or questions regarding this car. And also, if you want to help support the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I'll leave the link for that down below in the description box. Anyway, for now I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye!